Hello, welcome to my video. In this opportunity, I'm going to talk about language and regional variation. We have to consider that every language has a lot of variation, especially in the way it is spoken. For instance, if we look at English, we'll find a wide variety of, um, of variation in the way it is spoken in different countries such as Australia, Britain, and the United States. So I'm going to talk about all of the aspects of a language variation based on where that language is used. But first, we have to look at the meaning of the standard language to understand its variations. So, when we talk about words and the structure of a language, we concentrate on features of only one variety, that is, standard language. We find this version in newspapers, in books, in magazines. It's widely used in the mass media and is taught in schools. It refers to the language used in teaching English as a second or foreign language. So we can consider that this is like the formal language. One of the first aspects that I'm going to talk about the variation of language is accent and dialect. We have to consider their difference. Accent is how the people pronounce sounds of a specific language of a particular region or country, while dialect refers to both person's accent and the grammatical feature of the ways a person speaks. So we can say that the accent is part of the dialect. On the contrary, we have that dialect refers to a more complex way of the language because it includes the difference between the grammar, morphology, syntax, pronunciation, among other versions of the language. We have that accent is associated mainly with the region, the socioeconomic status, ethnicity, social class, etc. And the dialect is associated with geographical location. In simple words, accent refers to all of those aspects of how people pronounce the words that identify where that individual speaker is from regionally and socially. So, imagine a person whose first language is Spanish. He will speak English with an Spanish accent. On the other hand, we have dialect. A Northern American would say, "How do you do?" A Southern American would say, "Howdy." So if you see, there are totally different expressions. The Southern American will say howdy, just one word to represent the phrase "How do you do?" That is the dialect. So here we're going to talk about dialectology, which is the studies of variation in language based primarily on geographic distribution and their associated features. So it means that it will depend on the region or the state that they are going to have different expressions, different vocabulary to refer to some things and in the same language. So here we're going to study the regional dialect. It is also known dialect. It is a distinct form of a language spoken in a particular geographical area. In the US, for example, regional dialects include Appalachian, New Jersey, Southern English. In Britain, we have Cockney, Liverpool English, Geordie, Newcastle English. So it depends on the region. So the variation of language depends on the region, and they are going to have different expressions. So maybe we are going to wonder what are those boundaries of the regional dialect. So isoglosses can help us. They refer to the geographical boundary, that line marking the area in which a distinct linguistic feature commonly occurs. For instance, if you look at this picture, you'll find that there are some people that say the word phrase paperback to refer to the object to carry out things from one place to another. and the isogloss, the red line, represent the boundary. Below, you will find that in parts of South Dakota, Nebraska, and Iowa, they say paper sack to refer to the same thing. So, this isogloss refers to represent the boundary between the two areas in which the one linguistic item is used. So here we will find another important aspect, that is bilingualism. We have seen that regional variations are not simply involving two different forms of a language, of the same language, but involve in some cases more than two distinct and different languages. This is called bilingualism. For instance, in Canada, uh, they are considered a bilingual country with both French and English as official languages. As you can see in this picture, they are talking in two languages. One is responding in English. So they know both languages. However, there is one language in some cases that tends to be the dominant one and the other the subordinate one. Um, on the other hand, we have diglossia. That is a different concept. It refers to the situation in which two different forms of the same language are used in the community in two different social situations. Uh, for example, we have the high and low. The high is for formal language, is official, is in literary, is learned. In the low, we have that is informal, is spoken, is common, and is the language we use every day. So, the high language is used in formal situations like academic speeches, academic writing. In the low, we have that is what we use with our family, with our friends. So, as you have seen, we understand that the variation of language are involved different aspects, right? But in some countries they are monolingual. Most of the countries are monolingual, but some others have more than two languages. So we might wonder how they're going to know what is the standard language they're going to use. Imagine in Guatemala there are around 26 Mayan languages spoken, including Spanish. So they have to do a process to come up with some language that they are going to do as official. So that is the language planning process. The government, the educational organizations, they have to plan which is going to be the variety or the varieties of the language that are going to be used. So the first step is the selection. Then they have the codification, in which basic grammar, dictionaries, and written models are used to establish the standard variety. Then they have the elaboration, where the standard variety being developed for use in all aspects of social life and the appearance of the body literary work written in the standard. Then they have the implementation, where the government attempts to encourage the use of the standard language that they have chosen. Then they have the final step, that is the acceptance, where the population begin to use the standard language, and they notice it that it is the national language. Finally, I'm going to explain these two concepts that are important in the variation of the language, because in this way we are going to notice how sometimes people create a language to communicate. Pidgin refers to the development, it was developed for trading purposes and for a kind of contact, and is the first step in the formation of language. It has no grammar structures, native speaker, nor written form. It is designed to enable minimal viable communication. The Creole, on the other hand, it is what follows a pidgin. It is a language used by the community as the first language. It has grammar structures, both spoken and written form and native speakers. A Creole is a pidgin that has passed to a second generation of a speaker who formalize with a more developed structure of language. So, um, in simple words, I'm going to explain that pidgin starts in a multilingual situation where more than three languages are spoken and it emerges a pidgin. Imagine a situation like this. A plane crashes in an island and there is an accident. So all the people there, they speak in different languages. What they have to do is to try to communicate one another. So they will find words or phrases that maybe they understand, all of them understand. So it emerged pidgin. And then they are going to have babies, for example, and these babies are going to learn that language. They are going to be considered creoles of this language, and maybe this new generation are going to use this language in a more complex way. They're going to add a structure to the grammar. They're going to give more rules to this, and they're going to create a written form. We are considered creoles of the language we are speaking because we don't know how our people create this language, how they come up with this language. So this is like an example for you to understand how this is this functions. So as you have seen, the variation of language is very complex. There are many aspects that can affect the way people speak, the way people refer to the things. And this is very important to understand it because in this way we are going to know that there is no a better variety of language. They are just simply different. So I hope that you have understood and thank you for watching and for your attention.